So once again, good morning all. And today our topic of discussion is regarding the reproductive health. In our last class, we discussed the reproductive health. Then we were about to discuss the different method of contraception. Last day, we discussed that what is population explosion, what are the reason of population explosion, what are the reason of population explosion, how the population explosion can be controlled. Okay, so one of the problem regarding, or we can say the reason for population explosion is the lack of family planning. That means they are not having the proper family planning. That means how many children they should have, they should conceive. Then what should be the gap between the two children. Then there are a number of problems which will be arise from this lack of family planning. Okay, so today we will be discussing the different method of contraception. Students, in class we discussed the three methods: barrier, chemical, and surgical. But one more method, the natural method, is that is the withdrawal, or we can say the period of abstinence. Period of abstinence means not having sex during the 10 to 17 days of the menstrual cycle. Why? Because this is a period when ovulation will occur and the ovum will be present in the fallopian tube for fertilization with the sperm. So if during this period there is avoid of, or we can say sex is avoided during this period, then pregnancy will be, we can say, avoided. Next, we are talking about the barrier method. In barrier method, or we can say barrier method, works on the principle of the prevention of the fertilization of the sperm and the ovum. So one very good example of the barrier method is use of condoms by the male or female. Even the copper T, which is a T-shaped loop-like structure made up of copper, definitely they are placed inside the uterus and which prevent fertilization and implantation. How it works? This copper T releases copper ion and which reduces the mobility of the sperm. Reduces the mobility means the speed of the sperm, or we can say the fertilizing capacity of the sperm is reduced. Okay, is it clear to you, students, the barrier method? Is there any query which you have from the barrier method? Yes, I'm with the, yes, all of you, the barrier method of contraception is clear to all? Okay, fine. Next, students, we are coming to chemical method. Okay, we are coming to chemical method. Chemical method is a use of the contraceptive pills by female which changes the hormonal balance. That means they will disturb the menstrual cycle. Long-term use of the chemical method, like the long-term use of the contraceptive pill, is not preferred as because it creates hormonal imbalances in the body. Okay, so sometime in the board examination it also comes that who among the two partners who is given or who takes the chemical method prevention, it is a female. Next is the surgical method. So what happens with the surgical method? In surgical method there are two types of surgical method. One is called, let me use the one is called the vasectomy. Okay, vasectomy, from the name itself it should be clear to you that with whom it will be performed. Vasectomy is done in case of, can you tell me, students, from the name, can you tell me vasectomy is done in case of male? Very good. How you get this clue? How you get this clue that it is done in case of the male? How you get this clue that it is done in case of male? Very good. From the word vas, which stands for vas deferens. Very good. So what happens in vasectomy? In vasectomy, the vas deferens is cut and ligated. And yes, as a result, what happened? The sperm won't be able to fertilize the ovum in the fallopian tube. because no sperm will be discharged. Correct. And the next surgical method is tubectomy. Tubectomy, from the name itself, it should be clear to you that this will be performed in female. From the word fallopian tube, it comes because here the fallopian tube is cut and ligated. As a result, the ovum will not come to the fallopian tube, and the site of fertilization, fallopian tube is the site of fertilization. So the site of fertilization will be, we can say, disturbed or hampered, or we can say blocked. Got it? Is it clear to all of you, the three method of contraception? The three method of contraception is clear to all? Okay, fine. Yes, I got the feedback. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, students, after this, actually, in the topic of reproductive health, we have one more topic to discuss, that is the sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, the sexually transmitted diseases. So what is the sexually transmitted diseases? The diseases which is spread from an infected to a normal person through sexual contact. Okay, there are two types of the sexually transmitted disease as per our syllabus is concerned. One is a bacterial, other is a viral. Student, can you give me example of one viral STD and one bacterial STD through the chat box? Can you give me one example, as we are rediscussing this portion? So some questions will be asked to you also. Can you tell me one example of the bacterial and viral infection? Bacterial gonorrhea, viral AIDS, very good. Gonorrhea, syphilis is the bacterial. AIDS, warts, these are the viral infections. Okay, very good. Okay. Okay. So we have come to the end of rediscussion of the chapter reproduction. One query I got just the day in our last class, as because 10A and B during the offline classes you were having the separate schedule, and in one class I rediscussed the plant reproduction, but in one section it was not rediscussed, and then during the offline classes when it merged. So once again I will go to the plant reproduction, so that whatever queries and the doubts you have, you can come up with it. Okay, so once again I'm discussing the plant reproduction, and then we will be winding up this chapter. This chapter rediscussion or the revision will be fully completed, and from our next day class we will be starting our environment rediscussion. Got it? So let me go once again to plant reproduction. Let me go back to the slide. Okay, first of all, students, before going to the fertilization process of plant, let us first discuss the sexual parts of the plant. This is LS of a typical flower. Students, what is the full form of LS? Let me ask participant. Yes, Anand, you can unmute yourself, Anand. Anand, I have given you the option. You can unmute yourself, Anand. And tell me, Anand, what do you mean by LS?
Longitudinal section.
Very good, longitudinal section. Okay, Anand, you can mute yourself. Okay, fine, very good, longitudinal section. That means suppose if this is a flower, and if you are cutting the flower in this way, longitudinally, then it will be the longitudinal section of a flower. In the LS of the flower, what parts we can observe? In LS of the flower, we can observe the parts like, okay, the male reproductive part, that is the called stamen. One more name I said with the male reproductive part. Can anyone recall though this term is not given in class 10, but then also I said you in the class, can you tell me what the male reproductive part is called with one more term? With one more term, the male reproductive part. Okay, let me see the chat box. Oh, okay, Khushbu, no problem with that. See, all the three chapters we will rediscuss, Khushbu. Okay, in final examination we have reproduction, we have our environment, and we have heredity. Okay, so sequentially, first I did reproduction, next our environment, and then we will do the heredity. Okay, Khushbu, is it okay? Okay, fine. Because we will do all the I can say 2.5 chapters are there, so we will rediscuss each and every aspects. Okay. Yes, I'm just yes. Some of you have given the correct answer. Androecium, correct. Stamen consists of anther and filament. Okay, togetherly they makes the male reproductive part or the stamen. Pistil or carpel is the female reproductive part. It consists of stigma, it consists of style, and it consists of ovary. So these three makes the female reproductive part. The female reproductive part is also known by another term, that is gynoecium. Okay, it is known also by another term, that is a gynoecium. Now, petals are the, we can say, the part which attracts the insect for pollination. Okay, so if we are talking about the reproductive part of the plant, reproductive parts, the two, the reproductive part, the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part. Male reproductive part consists of anther and filament, and the female reproductive part consists of stigma, style, ovary. Okay, stigma, style, ovary. Now, any of the students who can briefly discuss this LS of the flower, please raise your hand. I will give you the option to unmute and then you can speak up. Who can briefly discuss the LS of a typical flower, what we have discussed just now? Anyone? Yes. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay. Okay, Khushbu 10A, Khushbu Kumari 10A. Khushbu Kumari, there are two Khushbu in 10A, 6563. Yes, Khushbu 6563. You can, yes, unmute. I have given you the option and briefly discuss the LS of a typical flower, its components, the reproductive part components. Yes, Khushbu, you can unmute yourself. Khushbu 6563. I think okay. I think she's not getting connected. Okay, then Saloni of 10B. Saloni, you can unmute yourself. Saloni, you can unmute yourself and briefly discuss the LS of a typical flower, which we have discussed now. Saloni. Yes, Saloni. Am I audible to you? Okay. Okay, yes. I repeat the question. I repeat the question. My question was that to briefly discuss the LS of the typical flower. Did you got it, Shivam? Okay. Okay. Okay, some of, okay, no problem. Okay. Then, okay, Kunal. Kunal of 10A. Unmute yourself, Kunal. Some of the students are even hesitating.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Kunal. Could you please discuss
Yes,
briefly
sir.
the LS of the flower, which we discussed just now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Kunal.
Flower has uh, pistil, stamen, petals, and sepal. In a stamen, there is anther and filament. Anther is the place where
Kunal, first you have to tell the
in a
stamen is the male or the female reproductive part. First you
male
have to.
reproductive part.
Okay, fine. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. And pistil is the female, which consists of a stigma, style,
Yes.
and ovary.
Okay, very good. Okay, fine. Yes, correct. The our motto was to study the reproductive parts. Okay, correct. Okay, Kunal, you can mute yourself. Very good. Now, students, after this, we will be coming to pollination. Pollination, you are knowing, it's a phenomena where pollens from the anther, the pollen from the anther will be coming and sitting over the stigma, or we can say the process of transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma of the same flower of the same plant, then it is called self, and of another flower of another plant, but of the same species, that is called the cross pollination. I think, is there any confusion in you regarding the self and the cross pollination? Is there any doubt regarding pollination, self and the cross? Self, when the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of the same flower of the same plant, and cross-pollination, transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of another flower of the same plant or different plant of the same species. So that becomes your cross-pollination. Yes, let me see. Okay, yes, no one is having the confusion. Shivam, which part? Shivam, which part you want to get again repeated? Please tell me the part, Shivam. Shivam, let me know the part which you want to get again repeated, as you have connected lately in class. LS of the flower. Okay, Shivam, I'm going back once again to LS of the flower. See, LS of the flower means a longitudinal section of the flower. If we are holding a flower like this and we are cutting the flower like this longitudinally, then it is the LS of the flower. In the LS of the flower, main concern, what we will be saying, the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part. Male reproductive part is the stamen, which consists of anther and filament, and female reproductive part, you can see my yes, pen over here. This is the male reproductive part. It consists of the anther and the filament. The female reproductive part consists of stigma, style, and ovary. Okay, this is the sepals, which is at the bottom, or we can say protect the petals or upper holes of the flower. And this is the petals which is or which need to be attractive for attracting the pollinators. Okay, is it okay, Shivam? Shivam, is it fine? You asked to repeat. Okay, good. Okay, so students, we discussed pollination also. Here you can see that here a bee is a pollinator or entering a flower to take the, what it will consume, student, the bee, what the bee will take from the flower. It is entomophilia. Entomophilia term is not included in NCERT. Entomophilia means when the pollination is done by insects. Okay, when the pollinator or the pollinating agent is the insect. What does the bee? What does the bee collect from the flower, student? What the bee is collecting from flower? Yes, this is very simple question. Each and every student should answer this. What very okay. Okay. Yes, correct. Yes, definitely the pollens. Okay, fine. So self and cross pollination also we discussed. Now we are coming to the major portion of this chapter, that is the double fertilization and triple fusion. This is our main concern. First of all, students, see, two male gametes, or we can say when the pollen grains comes and sits over the stigma, it forms a pollen tube. It forms a pollen tube towards the ovary chamber. Okay, this pollen tube carries how many male gamete? This pollen tube carries how many male gametes, students? Through the chat box. Very good. Very quick answer. Two. Very good. Two male gamete comes and in the pollen tube. See, I'm drawing also simultaneously. Two male gamete enters into the pollen tube. Now see what happens. One male gamete will directly fuse with the egg. So one male gamete directly fuses with the egg. Okay, I'm writing over here. One male gamete comes and directly fuses with the egg. So this is called syngamy. This phenomena is called syngamy. Now, what happened to the other male gamete? The next male gamete comes and fuse with the polar nuclei to form 3N. 3N. What is the name of this 3N nucleus now? This is called PEN. P-E-N. That means primary endosperm nucleus. And what is the role of this primary endosperm nucleus? This primary endosperm nucleus give nourishment to the developing embryo. And from where this embryo originated? When the one male gamete fused with the egg to form the zygote will develop into embryo, and this pen will give nourishment to this developing embryo. So because of the fact that syngamy, this formation of 3N pen is a triple fusion, because of the fact that syngamy and triple fusion is occurring simultaneously, this phenomena is called double fertilization. Double fertilization is clear to all? Is it clear to all the students? Double fertilization? Okay, very good. Okay, Shambhavi. Okay, no problem. I will repeat once more. Okay. See, Shambhavi. Pollen grain a pollen grain is coming and sitting over the stigma. This pollen grain forms a pollen tube towards the ovary. Now, this pollen grain is coming and sitting over the stigma. Two male gametes are released. One male gamete comes and fuses with the egg. One male gamete comes and fuses with the egg. The second male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei. Now, the first fusion, that is one male gamete comes and fuses with the egg, that is called syngamy. Why it is called syngamy? Because here fusion of, we can say, similar or the same gametes, that is an egg and the sperm is taking place simultaneously. Now the second male gamete comes and fused with the polar nuclei to make 3N. This 3N is called PEN, primary endosperm nucleus. This process is called triple fusion. Because of the fact that triple fusion and double syngamy is occurring simultaneously, this phenomena is called double fertilization. Shambhavi, is it clear to you now? You asked to repeat it. Shambhavi, is it clear to you now? Okay. Fine. Okay, Shambhavi. Students, very minutely, you see what I have said, listen to what I have said, because just now, anyone I can ask to discuss the double fertilization. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Because double fertilization, many times we have discussed, and this is one of the very important aspects of plant reproduction. Okay. Okay. Who wants to share the discussion of double fertilization from student side? Whatever we have discussed now, I also want the feedback from you all also. And yes, just raise your hand so that I can identify. The diagram is displayed over here. Okay, Palak has raised her hand. Okay, Palak, let me unmute you. 1 minute, Palak. Okay, Palak, you can unmute yourself, Palak.
Yes, sir.
Palak, go ahead, Palak. Two students raised her. Anushka also, very good. Okay, first Palak will briefly discuss double fertilization. Yes, Palak, go ahead.
The second male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei to form primary endosperm nucleus, which is 3N. This process is called triple fusion. Since syngamy and triple fusion occurs
Palak, hold on.
simultaneously, this process is called...
Palak, just a minute. Palak, you didn't talk about syngamy. You strictly went to triple fusion. You said that two male gametes are coming. You said second male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei. What happened to the first male gamete? Yes, Palak, I am giving you the option again to unmute. Yes, Palak, both the two gametes you tell. Palak, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Palak.
One male gamete fuses with the egg to form zygote. This is called syngamy.
Very
The
good.
second male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei to form pen primary endosperm nucleus, which is 3N. This process is called triple fusion. Since syngamy and triple fusion occurred simultaneously, this process is called double fertilization.
Very good, Palak. In very, we can say the exact whatever we discuss, you have said very good, Palak. Now, Anushka, yes, you have seen your hand also, Anushka. Okay, just a moment, Anushka. 1 minute, let me first. Yes, Anushka, you can unmute yourself, Anushka.
Yes,
Anushka.
sir.
Okay, Anushka, go ahead with the description.
One male gamete fuses with the egg to form zygote. This is called synogamy. The second male gamete fused with syngamy. The second male gamete fused with the polar nuclei to form primary endosperm nuclei, which is within 3N. This process is called triple fusion. Since synogamy and triple fusion occur simultaneously, the process is called double fertilization.
Very good, Anushka. Okay, you can mute yourself. Okay, students, so with this double fertilization we have discussed. Now, after the double fertilization, what will happen? Okay, so the post fertilization changes in case of the plant. What is included in the post fertilization changes? The post fertilization changes, what happens, a student, in the post fertilization changes? After fertilization, what will happen? Okay, Palak. Okay, you want to say something? Okay, Palak. 1 minute. Let me. Yes, Palak, you want to share something?
The zygote divides several times to form embryo.
Very good. The zygote divides several times to form the embryo. Then Palak, after that. Okay, Anushka. Very good. 1 point Palak shared. Then next point Anushka wants to answer. Okay, very good. Very good responses from you all. Yes, Anushka, go ahead with the second. Yes.
The ovary is finally converted into seeds.
Very good. Then seed develops into?
Fruits.
Okay, very good. Very good, students. Very good. Yes, so these are the post-fertilization changes in case of the plants. So with this, we have come to the end of the revision, or we can say the rediscussion of the chapter, how do organisms reproduce? And next day, we will be starting with the rediscussion or the revision of how we can say our environment. Okay, students?